how many kids today have allergies and food sensitivities? How many people have autoimmune disease? And I feel like I am called to be a protector of kids because I was that kid in that same situation. And my family was the family that didn't know. We had no idea that food dyes and added sugar were affecting me as a child. Number one's gut microbiome issues. Number two is ADHD. Number three is allergies and asthma. And then the next one would be neurological issues. All of these food dyes are banned in Europe.
Right.
So think about this. They're all banned in Europe. They're banned in Israel. They're banned in Australia. They're banned pretty much everywhere, but not the United States.
So we've been talking about the movement to clean up our food here in America. And whenever we talk about this particular topic, a couple of things inevitably come up. Number one, it's pricey. Number two, it's overwhelming. I don't know where to start. Number three, I'm skeptical. I just don't know who to believe. And number four, it's multifactorial. We can't just blame it on one thing. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Paula Ferris Show. I'm your host, Paula. I'm going to be addressing those in just a second and introducing today's guest, Dr. Josh Axe, who's going to tell us what American food is actually doing to us and our children, plus some easy swaps. And he's also going to share why he's hopeful about the American food system for the first time in a long time. But let's address those four, I guess you could call them concerns. Number one, it's pricey. I 100% agree. It is expensive to buy organic, but in this conversation, we are going to talk about how we can get the most bang for our buck and also some surprising ways that we can save money on our food. All right, number two, it's overwhelming. I don't know where to start. I totally get it. But the goal here isn't perfection. I think the most important thing here is that we are aware and that we can start making some easy swaps that will eventually crowd out some of the bad choices. But again, the goal is not perfection, and Dr. Josh Axe is going to share where we should start. Number three, I'm skeptical. I don't know who to believe. And you guys, I get it. That's why I will continue to encourage you to do your own research on this topic. I know for me, it's deeply personal. I have struggled with an autoimmune disease for the better part of almost 30 years. And I know it's not just food, but here's what the research has told me. The research says that we have a preteen, pre-diabetic epidemic. The research says that for the first time, this current generation will not live longer than the previous generation, which just breaks my heart. And also, we know this to be true. Ultra-processed foods make up 60 to 90% of our diets. And for children, those numbers are roughly 70% or higher. And what we eat absolutely defines how our cells work, how our organs work, and we are seeing a strong decline in mental health and well-being. And number four, we can't just blame it on our food. It's multifactorial. I completely agree. I think food is just one component. It's not just that our kids aren't eating good food. They're not as active as they once were. They're not playing outside, and they're on screens a lot, and they're not interacting face-to-face. There's a lack of that interpersonal communication. We're just not putting them in a position to succeed. So back to today's guest, Dr. Josh Axe. He has seen tens of thousands of patients, and he's going to share with us what American food is actually doing to us and to our children. He's going to peel back the curtain and he's going to explain it in layman's language. Plus, he's going to share some easy food swaps, where we can start in this whole process, and why he's actually hopeful about cleaning up our American food system. Here's Dr. Josh Axe. Dr. Josh Axe, thank you for joining the show. I have so many questions for you. And how do you want me to refer to you as? I don't want Ed to hear from anybody that is.
It's up to you. I'm good with hey you guy over there, or whatever you want to say is fine, Paula. So I just appreciate you having me on today.
I'll go back and forth between Dr. Josh and Josh. Okay, so Dr. Josh, I'm so glad you're here. I have tons of questions about what's in our food, this movement that we're seeing, and there's so much momentum right now, I feel like, to clean up our foods. We're being informed of what's actually in our foods. I was thinking about you today, Dr. Josh, because I follow you on Instagram, and you had posted something recently about avoiding perfumes and avoiding dyes and avoiding certain fragrances. And so on one hand, I'm looking for a fragrance-free body wash. And I did, by the way, because I had you in the back of my mind, a fragrance-free body wash. But then I stopped at the gas station to get a large soda. So I just want to say right out of the gate, I'm not perfect, okay? And I don't think the goal is perfection, but the goal is progress, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree. There is so much junk in our food supply. Let me say this, though. It's easier now than it was 10 years ago. There are so many brands producing great quality, cereals and oatmeal and sodas that are using monk fruit or stevia or blueberry juice. And so it's much easier now than it was. Now, we still have a lot of work to do. I
Yeah.
recently went to Michigan, myself and a good friend of mine, Vani Hari, and we went outside of Kellogg's headquarters, and we wanted to let them know we had 1,000 people there. These chemicals are not necessary to have in our kids' food supply. The
Sure.
BHT, the yellow 6, all of the food dyes, they're linked with ADHD, which, by the way, Paul, that's something very near and dear to my heart. I was the kid growing up that got prescribed Ritalin in high
Mm-hmm.
school, that got prescribed Adderall in college, and I actually only took it for 3 days, and then it made me feel strange. And so I got off of it immediately. But I was the kid that really battled with ADHD growing up. And you know what I ate? A lot of foods with food colorings growing up, and
Really?
a lot of sugar and a lot of the processed foods. And when I got off of them, I got really into health a little bit in high school, but more in college. And my grade point average went way up. I mean, I really think there was a direct link between the junk food I was eating and getting poor grades, having trouble focusing, having health issues, to when I made a switch, I noticed I got much physically healthier. And I think there's a lot of kids today and adults not living to their full God-given potential
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
all of the junk
Mm-hmm.
in our food supply.
Yeah, we are what we eat. So, have you ever seen, you just mentioned Vani, and she's a guest on the show this season, but there really is this movement happening to clean up our food, and we're more informed than we ever have been. Have you ever seen or felt momentum like this before, Josh?
No, not to this level. Now, let me say that it's constantly gotten better. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. When I opened up my functional medicine clinic back in 2007 in Nashville, I would have people raise their hand if they'd heard of an omega-3 fat, and most hadn't. Now, I
Yeah.
know you're like, well, what do you mean? I mean, everybody's heard of that today, or even probiotics. Nobody knew what a probiotic was in 2007 when I would teach my lectures. 5 years later, almost everyone had. So and it used to be where if somebody practiced functional medicine like myself and prescribed vitamins and supplements and dietary things, that was seen as more non-mainstream. Well,
Hmm.
now it's moved into mainstream. So there's no doubt we've seen a steady climb over the past 20 years of people consciously understanding the importance of health and nutrition. But to answer your question more directly, no, I mean, I think we are seeing a greater leap than ever before. I actually
Right.
think more than anything, it's due to COVID, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
I actually think that was the tipping point.
Ultra processed foods. I saw a study that came out recently that I was like, my mind was blown. 60 to 90% of our foods and our diet are made of ultra processed foods here in America. Is that true?
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it like this, when I used to teach shopping classes at Whole Foods Market or even at Kroger, our local grocery store, the foods on the outside,
Uh-huh.
those are the unprocessed foods. The entire middle of the store, which is about probably 80 to 90% of the store, that's mostly processed foods. Now, again, if you go to a place like Whole Foods Market or Sprouts or a local health food store, most of those are minimally processed. But if you're in a conventional grocery store, almost every single one of those foods are completely processed. And just to define this for everybody, an apple or a piece of corn, that's unprocessed. Taking, an apple and turning that into, let's say, apple juice, where it's raw and unfiltered and still natural, that's minimally processed. Taking apple juice and pasteurizing it, where you're heating it and bringing it through a filter to where really the only thing left is sugar water, that's ultra processed. And there are things
Okay.
even worse than that. High fructose corn syrup is ultra processed. A lot of our oils, like our seed oils, they use a lot of chemical processing. They
Mm.
use chemicals for the extraction. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's 60 to 90% that's about right.
So tell me, what exactly is in our foods that we should be concerned about? And how long has this been going on? Because it seems like, I guess it's two different questions. So let's just start with what exactly is in our foods that we should be concerned about.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the first thing is not something that's in your food. It's the transformation that's happening to your food. Okay. And then let me hit on the things in your food. I want to give you an
Okay.
example. This
I
is
love this.
dairy.
I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dairy is a prime example. Dairy in its most natural form is, well, one, genetically, we want it to be a certain thing. This is a whole nother topic, but like cow milk today of Holsteins, they start to have an inflammatory protein in it because their genetics have changed over time. So if you're doing an ancient cow that was used in the Middle East, you hear reference in the Bible, that's one. Goat milk, sheep milk, it's all a certain type of protein. You want milk that's raw? That's right. Absolutely raw, never heated. You want it to be organic, never sprayed with pesticides. And you want it to, in a lot of cases, even be fermented, which is great, which is actually boosting it. It's not processing, it's really amplifying the food. And so it's something like that. So sometimes it's not even what we add to the food. It's what we
Have
do to
done
the
to it.
food.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just the first point to consider. The second thing is something that could be added, like pesticides. We know that most crops are heavily sprayed with chemicals. If it doesn't say organic on it, it was 99% of the time sprayed with an herbicide or pesticide, some form of a chemical. When I taught my shopping workshops, I would hold up an apple and I'd say, this is an organic apple, this is a non-organic apple. And I would say, okay, how many of you guys ate a non-organic apple in the last week or whatever? Most people would raise their, I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people would eat some sort
Uh-huh.
of nut. But I'd say, okay, if I took this bottle right now and I have this spray bottle and I sprayed this right now with herbicides and chemicals, would you eat it right now? And everyone's like, no. I'm
No
like,
way.
but that just happened 2 weeks ago. That
Mm.
exact same thing. So it's just important to understand, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not
Okay.
real.
Yeah.
Now here's a hack for everybody though. If you're buying non-organic produce, if you soak it in baking soda for 2 minutes and rub it in baking soda for 2 minutes, it kills off, and according to a study, close to 99% of the herbicides.
Oh, so it's
So
baking soda.
just baking soda and
Okay,
water
that's great.
is the
Amazing.
single most effective way to cleanse your fruit
Okay.
or in vegetables.
So herbicides and pesticides, what are those going to do to us? And let's continue to talk about some of the more alarming things that are in our food.
Yeah. For the most part, now the most prominent is glyphosate, and this is a chemical that I actually did a recent podcast myself on this. And there is a clinical study that shows if you consume glyphosate, which is the most common herbicide used in our food supply today, it's on almost every single food that's not organic. It disrupts and changes 54% of the bacteria in our gut. I mean, that is significant. I mean, that a single herbicide has that big of a difference. Now, but think about today, how many kids today have allergies and food sensitivities? How many people have autoimmune disease? A lot of these are directly linked to the health of our gut microbiome. So that's the first thing that tends to be affected. After that, it's our liver and our kidneys. Most of these are carcinogenic, which means
Mhm.
they're cancer causing, or they morph our cells, causing our cells to be unhealthy in our guts. And so really pesticides, herbicides, biggest impact is going to be changing and killing off or damaging the microbes in our gut, along with affecting and damaging our liver and kidneys.
Okay, so beyond that, we've been hearing a lot about dyes and other preservatives that are put in the food. Can you tell us a little bit about how prominent and prevalent those are and what that does to our body as well?
Yeah. And so, yeah, food dyes. Now, this is one of the things you've probably, some of you might have even seen me being vocal about this on Instagram or YouTube, because again, this is something very personal to me. And I feel like I am called to be a protector of kids, because I was that kid in that same situation. And my family was the family that didn't know. We had no idea that food dyes and added sugar were affecting me as a child. When you look at food dyes, there are about 6 to 10 that are the most common that you're going to find predominantly in a lot of these brightly covered foods today. I did a
Mhm.
podcast on this if people want to dive in and learn
Yeah.
about every one you want to stay away from. But basically, think about Skittles. Think about Lucky Charms or
Mhm.
Tricks, or the one that I was protesting recently was Fruit Loops. These colorings have been linked to, number one, ADHD, learning disorders in children. Okay. That, of course, is also going to exacerbate and make issues like autism and Asperger's and thing on the ASD spectrum more. It's going to cause issues there. And again, this really is very similar to the Roundup or the herbicide issue, is it's going to affect the gut microbiome. It's when you affect the gut microbiome, you affect everything else.
Mm.
Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, all disease begins in the gut. So when you ingest food dyes, what they do is they go and chemically react and impact these gut bacteria. When you damage or change and alter in a negative way our gut microbiome, your body is no longer able to fully absorb nutrients as well. So that's one thing. So we know that if kids are deficient in omega-3 fatty acids or certain B vitamins or zinc,
Hmm.
it actually will cause them to not be able to learn as well. And it's also been linked to symptoms of allergies and some of the other things. Number one is gut microbiome issues. Number two is ADHD. Number three is allergies and asthma. And then the next one would be neurological issues. And then actually hives and rashes, and that's tied to allergies as well. But those are the most common side effects. All of these food dyes are banned in Europe. So think
Right.
about this. They're all banned in Europe. They're banned in Israel. They're banned in Australia. They're banned pretty much everywhere,
Uh,
but not the United States. And here's why. Our standards are, well, in order for us to ban it, we have to have absolute evidence and meta-analysis showing that, okay, it's 100% that this causes cancer. Whereas in Europe, they say, well, listen, when it comes to kids' health, especially, if we think it's probable, then we're going to ban it.
Jeez.
And so just the way that we go about our entire governance in the FDA today is very weak and it's very politicized. And here's the other thing. I mean, we have these companies like Kellogg's right now they're afraid they're going to lose billions of dollars if they change out the food dyes because they're not quite as bright. So they don't think it's going to be able to, like, kids aren't going to be manipulated as easily.
Right.
So they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars for lobbying and for paying government officials and doing things to keep the laws from changing and passing to banning the artificial food dyes.
It's so infuriating. I remember this was probably 15 years ago. One of my cousins, she and her husband had to move to Canada for work. And so she has 4 kids. And I remember her telling me then, she said, Paula, the Oreos that I buy in Canada are a totally different formula than the
Yeah.
Oreos in America. And I was like, that's interesting. Right. So I don't understand. You just mentioned, the way that the laws and regulations are established here in America. How are they getting away with this? I just don't understand. Is there a ton of corruption? I don't understand. Like, when did our standards change and how are they getting away with this?
This goes a little deeper. It has to go to a little bit more to what's most important to Americans. And what's most important is financial prosperity.
Money.
It's the most important thing. Now, and I want to give you an example of this. I lived in Puerto Rico for 3 years. And they had a greater emphasis on family life. Now, there are other problems there, and I actually think there's other problems there. But
Yeah.
I think that they had a greater emphasis on family. It was more important. Like on Sundays there, the mothers and the grandmothers and the great-grandmothers and grandparents, like everybody got together on Sundays.
Right.
Everybody. And it was just what you did there. And we don't do that. We move away across the country and you don't see your relatives very often, whatever. It just, so family was more important there. Here, money is seen as the primary model of success. I mean, it's not that way. Again, Italy's another example.
Money
Something
is
very
king.
different.
Money is God here.
It is. And so it really comes down to that. The investors, and this is another example of the policy of the United States versus other countries. The United States is one of only 2 countries in the entire world that can market pharmaceuticals, okay, on like TV ads.
Yeah,
as
I
an
don't understand.
example.
My husband's like, why are we seeing these ads? It's not making me, it's not convincing me to take this drug. But they're
Well,
spending
the fact
so
that
much
it's
money.
legal in the first place to market so heavily drugs and medications just kind of goes to show, again, it's all about health is not the priority.
Mm,
Money is the priority.
mm-hmm.
So that's
That's
really part of the
interesting.
problem. I don't think people were as aware. I think people are waking up right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to guarantee this, but I'm going to as close as I can. We're
Do it.
seeing this wave right now.
Yeah.
I will be shocked if we're, I don't know, 4 years from now, and if food dyes aren't banned because so
Okay.
many people are now speaking up about it.
Yeah. So of the chemicals and preservatives and the pesticides that are in our food, you said it's pesticides and it's food dye, other preservatives. What are the most concerning additives and or pesticides or food dyes? Like, what's the most concerning to you? What are you fighting the hardest? And it sounds like food dyes to get out of our food.
Well, right now it's food dyes. If you want to know what the most damaging is, it's added sugar, number 1, and seed oils, number 2. Those are the most damaging.
All right.
The others aren't even food. So I think our point is they shouldn't be allowed. You shouldn't be allowed to
Right,
call it
right,
food. It
right.
shouldn't even be there, period.
Ugh.
But but it's the added sugar and the food dyes that are actually causing the most. It's what's causing the obesity epidemic. It's
Mhm.
what's causing diabetes rates to soar. It's what's causing cancer rates to rise. Sugar, there's a direct correlation there. So
Yep.
heart disease, because all these inflammatory seed oils. So I think when people are buying a food, if they see added sugar, now it's one thing to have some natural sugar. Maybe there's honey added to a product, or there's dates or fruit or something like that. That's fine. But added sugar, even if it's cane sugar, that's causing a majority of our illnesses today, followed by a lot of processed seed oils. It's soybean oil, vegetable oil, cottonseed oil, corn oil, even sunflower and safflower oil. These oils that are processed, they are definitely inflammatory. The top 12 countries, industrialized nations, were last. And we spend by far the most on healthcare and medicine. Like our average lifespan is around 77 years, where I want to say Japan
Right.
is around 84. That's a 7 years of life.
Right, right.
That's a pretty big difference. And
Mhm.
again, a big reason is we are overspending on medication. And part of the reason why so many people are on medications is we can market using them, but all the added sugar and the seed oils.
You just mentioned lifespan, Josh, and you said also previously that you feel strongly called to advocate for kids. And I was reading this. It says we're actually seeing that this next generation of children might be the first generation to have a shorter lifespan than their
Than their
parents due to
parents.
nutrition and lifestyle factors.
Yep.
That is so
Yep.
concerning.
Well, and the reason is kids are getting diseases so young today. If you think about it, inflammation, we actually, now in the medical literature, a lot of the scientists are calling it inflammaging, because inflammation causes you to age faster.
Right, right.
Well, if a kid's having allergic reactions, and a lot of them when they're younger, well, that's an inflammatory reaction. They're aging more quickly. By the way, I saw this in my practice. You know how many young girls were coming in, hitting their menstrual cycle at like 11 years old,
Right.
12 years old, when it really should be closer to 16? We're
Mhm.
talking about, so what's happening there is, think about this. If you're hitting at 11 rather than 16, they've already aged 5 years physiologically faster in their first 15 years of life. That's
Mm.
two. That's radical. Men in their 20s have the same levels of testosterone that men did in their 70s 50 years ago. And so we're seeing,
Wow.
especially hormonally, people aging 10, 20, 30 years faster than they should. And a lot of it has to do with these food things. Now, I used to teach a lecture on this, and one of the things I talked about is a lot of the hormones in our meat and dairy supply. There's something called RBH, and anyway, there's this recumbent bovine hormone that's found in a lot of our meat and dairy supply and in other hormones. We do this so chickens get bigger breasts, and the cows produce 4 times more milk than they physiologically should be able to. But those hormones, when we consume them, then impact our hormones, in some cases causing us to age more quickly. So there's a lot to talk about, but that research is correct. There is a good chance that a lot of these kids could, some of them could die before their parents because of
It's
this.
so sad, and I'm sure people listening or watching are just probably screaming right now wherever they're watching or listening, because it's so frustrating that this has been allowed to happen, and that essentially we're giving our kids poison, and we don't
Yeah.
even know. Okay, I need you to equip us right now, Josh, because I'm sure those that are consuming this episode might feel a little helpless. Like, I'm feeling a little helpless like
Yeah.
now. Where
Yeah.
do I even start? You mentioned seed oils, and you mentioned sugar and added sugar and pesticides and dyes. So where do we start? And I will say, eating healthy is very expensive. It is also very time consuming. So where should we start? Whether we're doing this individually or we're doing this for our family, where do we start?
Yeah. Well, number one, you need to start with, I'm trying to think how to say this with a level of sensitivity, but I think you should start with your priorities. Make a decision of what is truly going to be the most important thing in your life.
Mhm.
Okay. Is it God? Is it family? Is it your kid's health? Is it monetary gain? Is it having a bigger house than the neighbor next door? So it goes something really deep here to decide what's most important to
Mm.
you, and just saying, okay, if it is your kid's health, and say, it's my kid's health is very important. Okay. Well, then what's the easiest way to go about doing this with these busy, hectic, overwhelming lives we have?
I want to jump in too, not just our kids' health, but like we're also setting that example. And I
Oh,
feel
you're
like
right.
I'm
Yeah.
perimenopausal. I'm God knows how all of this is affecting me and or my husband. So I just wanted to jump in, not just our kids, but like we have to set that example and it's affecting us too.
I'm really glad you said that. Yeah, and it should be our collective, our family's health, your health, if you're married, your spouse's health, your kids' health. So yes, collectively, the health of the family. And then from there, here's what I found. And again, just for maybe peace of mind for everybody, I helped do this with tens of thousands of patients. So it's not like I've done this once. I've done this a lot. And
Yes,
believe
you
me,
have.
your objections are the same ones I've dealt with my own family and with the thousands of patients that I've worked with and done this for. The best way to do this, the most effective way, is to simply think in your mind of doing a swap. I'm not taking something from you. Don't focus on all the things you can't have. If you start saying, well, Dr. X says I can't do this anymore, this or this or this or this. No, naturally start adding in and swapping in the good stuff, and
Hmm.
it will start to crowd out the other stuff over time. So don't overwhelm yourself. Don't get
Yeah.
super stressed about it. And the way you do this is, okay, what are the oils in your pantry? Okay, well, next time you buy oil, buy true extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil.
Not
Okay, those
avocado
are the
oil?
best two oils, and avocado would be the third,
Okay.
right? So do those oils, and then do real grass-fed butter, right? Just good butter. Like make those your new fats, and then the other fats, maybe if you do have canola oil or something, then throw it away or use it, and then get rid of it when it's in. Don't buy it again, right? So it's that sort of idea. Let's crowd it out over time. Your flours, try and buy organic next time. Try and buy something maybe that's gluten free. Switch in that healthier flour. Meat, try and buy organic when you can next time.
We bought a
Or
cow.
grass.
That was very affordable for us, and I like,
Yeah, it's the
we're on
best
our
way.
3rd cow, local, grass-fed, and it's
Yes.
so much cheaper. I mean, we bought a freezer, a deep freezer for it, but
Yes.
I recommend that to everyone because 'cause you're buying 1 cow from your area that's grass-fed, and it's not a bunch of different cows mixed together and God knows what they've been fed. It's affordable. It's so much more affordable to buy it that way. So
It's the best thing to do. There's no doubt. Cost effective wise. A lot of people don't
mhm.
realize the meat they're eating too. Sometimes it's from multiple animals
It's
together. I
so
mean, it's not.
gross when you think
And
about
so
it.
it is. It definitely is. And then if you think about some of the other things, the conditions they were living in, if
Mhm.
it's not organic and pasture raised. So what you're saying is right on. There's no doubt you're right on. But to make the swaps. Like
Mhm.
here's the thing I just want to share with everybody. I still eat pizza. I just make it at home, right? For
Yeah.
the most part, or we find a better company that maybe does some sourdough and maybe they have some organic ingredients, or we eat pizza it's once a week and we clean the rest of the week. My point there is that just do some of these food swaps. If you're buying junk bars for your kids or junk cereal, there's a lot of really healthy brands that have great options. And so just do swaps
Yeah.
and then crowd out the bad stuff over time.
Okay. That's good. So look at the sugars and the oils and, pesticides. I like your easy solution to getting, what did you say, 90 to 99%
It's
of the
around 90 to
pesticides off with baking
99%. I've
soda?
seen multiple studies, but it's in that 90 percentile. Baking soda and water for a couple minutes, just kind of rinse it around, wash it off, and you
Yeah.
you get a lot of pesticides off that way.
What about like your dairy?
Well, a lot of us are lactose intolerant. A lot
Yes.
of us are casein sensitive. And part of the problem is when you take milk and you pasteurize it, so you heat it up, you kill off the enzyme. So now you don't have lactase to digest lactose, right? The enzyme that digests that dairy protein. And then homogenizing it, that's a whole nother problem in terms of what it does to,
Yeah.
in a way, make the fats not as healthy for our bodies. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to buy dairy, I would try and buy the best place to go is your local farmer's market and get to know your local farmer and buy raw milk from your local farmer.
Okay.
That's the best place.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that, the next best option is likely going to a health food store or Sprouts or Whole Foods or HEB or whatever your health food store is, and going and getting an organic, pasture raised, or grass fed dairy product there, that's the next best option.
No, these are all awesome options, and I know a lot of it's not gonna I feel like with the meat and the dairy, you're gonna pay a lot more. Do you have any recommendations for somebody who's trying to do this on a budget? Maybe a biggest bang for their buck,
Yeah.
what they should really focus on?
Yeah. So first, know this: your meat and dairy are the most important things to buy organic by
Okay.
far.
Okay.
And so buying the whole cow, that's a great piece of advice. Buying in bulk, that's a great piece of advice. Getting a Costco membership. Actually, Costco carries a fair amount of organic meat. Like we'll buy like chicken, like these big things of organic chicken from Costco, keep those in the freezer. So, I mean, there's no doubt buying in bulk, Costco, farmers market,
Mhm.
those sort of things are the biggest needle movers for budget.
What are some things in our home, and how can we clean up our home? And maybe like you've like I mentioned it earlier, you posted about perfumes and dyes, but what are some things in our home that might be harming us and we don't even realize it?
Well, I don't want to overwhelm people. I almost want to just stick to the food here.
Yeah.
But let me say this. I actually think the most important thing in your home to fix is your water. I think getting a water filtration system, it could be one of those Berkey filters, or there's another one coming out that's very similar, or reverse osmosis, and really just your drinking water. Just getting something to where the water you're drinking on a daily basis is filtered, because again, I don't like fluoride in our drinking water. I think in your toothpaste in small amounts, maybe when they tested it years ago,
Mhm.
that was fine because you were not consuming it. But when you're drinking that much fluoride over time, that's a terrible idea.
What is fluoride doing to us? I'm not like very aware or informed of what it does to us.
Well, go online and look up fluorosis or the side effects of long-term, fluoride use. So if people
Okay.
want to educate themselves, but one, I mean, it can cause neurological decline. It's been linked to actually weakening your bones. That's another one, damaging your kidneys, all kinds of things. It's not ideal to do it in that high of doses, or
Mhm.
for your entire lifespan doing that much fluoride. And I know that's one of the things that a lot of countries banned it. I mean, same thing in Europe. We're talking about the very similar thing with the foods here, food dyes still in our food. There's a lot of countries that have banned, and they don't have fluoride. And most of the countries that have done it are the countries that are healthier and have a longer lifespan than the United States. But chlorine's in there. There's a lot of medications and chemicals. I mean, in certain areas, their water supply is much worse than others. In fact, I did a podcast on this, and I went through the top 20 cities in America that have the worst water supply. Now, most of us know this, like Flint, Michigan, or
Right.
certain areas of Michigan, the water was unbelievably toxic. But it's not just that one city. I mean, there are quite a few cities around the country where if you would taste the water, you're like, this isn't right.
Mhm.
And a lot of it is chemical residue. Like they tested and found a lot of medications. They found estradiol, which is estrogen.
Yeah,
Something
I
that
take that for my hormone replacement
uh,
therapy, so
yeah, yes, but let me ask, do you want your son taking
no,
that?
I
Well
don't.
well, it's likely in your water supply, and so that's the reality. So, I mean, so if you did we could get into a million things with your home, but I really think the single most important thing that you could do in your home is just get a simple quality reverse osmosis or some sort of filter to help filter your water. And then after that, I mean, I could get into parabens and phthalates and I could get into
Yeah.
all of
We
it.
could go down a
But let me
rabbit
just
hole.
say
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
just generally try and buy the natural stuff next time.
Yep,
Just
yep.
generally try and do that when you're buying new stuff from now on. And that alone with the water filter will go a long, long way.
Yeah, and the goal isn't necessarily to get to 0% ultra processed foods, like you said.
Right.
It's
No.
just, find the biggest bang for your buck. Try the swaps, right? How have you managed to do this in your home? Because growing up, my dad had a heart attack when he was 50, and at that point, my mom started shopping at the bulk food store. I mean, I was having natural, nasty peanut butter back in the late 70s, early 80s. I'd have dried apricots, homemade bread. I mean, she milled her own wheat. This woman went next
Wow.
level. And I was like, can
What
I
a
please?
mom.
And, the big treat, we would go to the day old bread store. We didn't have a ton of money. So if I had a field trip or we had field day at school, that was the special day because I got to go to the day old bread store and pick out any sort of king dong or whatever treat that I wanted that
Yeah.
had all the processed foods in it. But how have you managed this with your family to encourage them to be informed, know what's in our food, what it's doing to you, and to eat better.
The reason why I eat so healthy is I've decided to educate myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you know something and you're informed, it's much easier and you're much more motivated, inspired to do something differently. So I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would say for myself and for my wife is we both read and we watch podcasts like this or my podcast about nutrition, right? So in our household, we just buy the better brands. Like we still eat some packaged foods, but they're just packaged real food. Like our daughter, if she wants a snack, we have dried strawberries. We've got dried apple chips. She gets dark chocolate. We just buy the stuff that's healthy, and they're the swapped versions, Mm-hmm. So I think for us, we swap. That's really it. Like I mentioned this, we still eat pizza. We still eat chicken parmesan. We still have chicken teriyaki. We still do sandwiches. We just do sandwiches on sourdough bread with organic roast beef and horseradish sauce and avocado mayo. And
Mm-hmm.
we eat probably the same things that everyone else has in their house.
Yeah.
We've just swapped in the healthier ingredients. That's it.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting, I have had gluten sensitivities. I got really sick in my early 20s. So what year was early, like mid 90s. I got very sick. I lost about 40 or 50 pounds. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. I mean, I had all the tests done, upper GI, lower GI, sigmoidoscopy, endoscopy, colonoscopy, and they found out that I have like this rare form of colitis. I'm not allergic to gluten. I don't have celiac, but I'm very sensitive. But my stomach has not been the same, and I'm almost 50 years old. So I have literally just been living with this. But you mentioned something about sourdough bread a while ago, and that it really doesn't impact those with celiac or gluten sensitivities. And
that's right.
I've started implementing it, and it's fine.
It's the species of bacteria that sort of make the difference there. A few things you might consider just for yourself there. Mm-hmm. When I've had people have had that sort of gastrointestinal trauma, doing high dose probiotics, like much higher than you're used to, even 200 to 500 million a day is about what you want to do. So that's like probably double dose twice a day of a lot of supplements. I do a soil-based and a food-based probiotic. Doing bone broth, like a bone broth powder, would be very good. But doing the high-dose probiotics for a really long period of time, for a year or so, that can start to really build up and help. And then there's an herb that's really good, astragalus, taking 2,000 milligrams a day and then drinking more herbal teas, like ones that have a lot of the anti-inflammatory compounds like a ginger and turmeric and those sort of things. But I think if you incorporated some of those things, you'd notice an improvement and probably maybe a full recovery.
Yeah, I would love that because I don't want to be on medications my whole life. And honestly, medications have been like a stopgap and then they stop working, and I've been on high doses of steroids for I was on steroids last year for 8-9 months, like high doses of that. So I just haven't really been able to find anything that helps. So maybe we can talk offline about it because I'd love to heal my gut. I don't know what prompted it. I remember getting really sick after eating something from our cafeteria in college. And then not shortly thereafter, I got really, really, really ill. So I don't know what flared up or what happened. I mean, I know I've had autoimmune issues my whole life. So, but anyways, this has been super, super helpful. And I'm going to link in the show notes a couple of the podcasts that you mentioned. Also, the water filtration system. And you also have an ultimate guide to clean eating that you've used. And I looked it over and it's a sample of what you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And what I love about it is it's pretty simple. You've kept it really simple. You don't have to overcomplicate it, right?
Yeah, it is simple. As I mentioned, I do smoothies. I do eggs and sweet potato hash or turkey sausage or oatmeal. I mean, it is pretty simple.
Yeah, that's good to know. So, well, Dr. Josh Axe, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining the show and just shedding the light on this. And I'm very encouraged, the momentum that we have to clean up our food. And I'm very, very encouraged by all the work that you're doing for families and fighting for our kids, this next generation. So thank you.
Well, Paula, thanks so much for having me. It was a joy. And thanks again.
Thank you. All right. I hope you guys are ready for my takeaways. I have several. Those are coming up in just a second. But I do want to say A big thanks to Dr. Josh for joining me in conversation, sharing his expertise and wisdom. But I want to stress one more time, it is important for you that are listening or you that are watching to do your own research. I'm going to bring experts to the table, but it's really important for you to do your own research. I shared with you why this particular topic is near and dear to me because I have had an autoimmune disease for going on 30 years, but this is just one perspective, so do your homework. And I know that we shared a lot of stuff for those of you that felt you were drinking from a fire hydrant, which kind of happens when we talk to these experts, and that's okay. I'm going to put all those links in the show notes. It is time for my takeaways. My biggest takeaway is this. The goal isn't perfection. You don't have to get to 0% ultra-processed food. That's actually just not realistic. Make those easy swaps. And as Dr. Josh shared, he said, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is to just crowd out the bad stuff over time. Don't focus on what you can't have and don't get super strict. He still eats pizza. He still has sandwiches. He just makes some of those easy swaps. And if you're in a position to spend a little bit more money and you don't know where to spend it, he said, buy organic beef and dairy. That's the most important category to buy organic. You can do that at your local farmer's market for dairy and meat. My family, I shared in the conversation for the last couple of years, we have bought a local cow. It's been really cost effective and it's incredibly tasty. We have a big deep freezer in our garage that we keep full of a local cow. And as for fruits and vegetables, you don't have to buy organic. He said you can soak them in baking soda and it'll get rid of over 90% of the bad stuff, which I found really fascinating. But as for the bad stuff, it's the sugars, it's the food dyes, which, by the way, we mentioned last week on the podcast with Vani Hari, the food babe, that the FDA has recently banned red dye number 3. But it's hard to know who to believe because they've said in the past that food dyes are safe. Seed oils, I know some people think it's controversial, but they can be inflammatory. We are absolutely overspending on medicine. And when it comes to pesticide and herbicide, I didn't know this. It changes our gut. It kills the microbiomes of our gut. And it also affects our liver and our kidney. I hope you guys found that helpful. I know it can feel overwhelming, but I do feel like you are empowered in terms of knowing where to start in this process. And if you are passionate about this particular topic like I am, I hope you do feel hopeful and that you share this week's episode and last week's episode with anybody that's close to you that you think might get a lot from this conversation. All right, next week, do you want to be the house where all the kids hang out? If you want to, then you got to do this one thing. I'm joined in conversation by my very good friend Logan Wolfram, and she's going to share how to be the house where all the kids want to hang out. That's next week as we continue to talk about it, and I'll see you then. I know you guys thought you were done with me, but not quite yet. I have one more thing to tell you about. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to subscribe to the show. I don't want you to miss a single beat or a single conversation. And remember, my DMs are always open. Tell me what you want to talk about.